Welcome to our session on the power of advocacy. I just wanted to say a couple of things about actually the title and what we're trying to achieve here. One of the things we're doing with these sessions that we're calling the power of is to highlight issues and people in the advocacy who are speaking up and telling their stories in a unique way and acting in a unique way. And what we think is that these two ladies here exemplify the passion and purpose that comes with speaking from the heart and in advocating. And I also want to say that I think that I consider them very close friends. But they know a couple of things. One of the things these ladies know, and what I think defines advocacy, is that they know that the time to act is now. They know that they're not afraid to push for change. They know that they can act intentionally with this passion and purpose to achieve their goals. And they will stand up and they will speak out in very profound and innovative ways. So that's what we're trying to bring out with these sessions and with the people who are speaking. And with that, I'm going to just talk 1 minute before I introduce Rhonda and talk about how we'll handle the panel discussion. We've got, we have a chat at the box, a chat icon down there, but we also have a Q&A icon. And if you have any questions as we go through these the conversations with Holly and Rhonda, please put your questions in the Q&A box. If you have a specific one for either Rhonda or Holly, or if you want them to answer, both of them to answer the same question, just note that. What we'll do is we'll give Rhonda, we'll start, and we'll give her 20 minutes to talk about her story, to tell her story, and then Holly will tell her story, and then we'll take questions. So, what I'd like to say is that right now I want to introduce Rhonda Rogers, my good friend, that I met personally in San Diego last year, and we bonded. But Rhonda has, in a way, a unique story, but a common story, and that's the one about diagnosis. She was originally diagnosed with polymyositis, and then learned after treatments that didn't take, learned in 2015 that she actually had inclusion body myositis. So her journey has been one of educating herself on her disease and trying to find people that that aligned with her, that had the disease, because she, like all of us, felt alone in that we were the only ones that were suffering with myositis. And in that process, what she learned is that the power of the soul of the myositis warrior, those people who are battling, were a lot like the archetype of the superhero. And her advocacy is based and formed around the concept of a superhero. And superheroes have a mission, and she's going to talk about this, but that mission is to do good, to be strong in spirit, and to act. And that exemplifies what Rhonda is doing with her innovative approach to advocacy. So Rhonda, why don't you tell us your story?
Well, Lynn, thanks very much, and thank you everyone who's joining us today. And first off, I'd like to know if anybody recognizes this. Did you take part? Did you donate? Were you aware? You are already an advocate for myositis, so thank you very much. However, my story started out in a different way. Jerry, if you'd like to show the first slide, I can tell you a little bit about how I actually became the myositis warrior. I live in San Diego, and after a period of rather tumultuous personal events in 2019, I was at a personal low. in myositis personally, and I needed to summon the strength of a lawyer to get me through the day. So in San Diego, once a year, typically, all superheroes gather at the International Comic-Con that I had never been to in all 50 years in San Diego. I made myself a cake, I rode a scooter, and I braved the crowds of 110,000 people with my daughter and son-in-law as my bodyguards, who did think I had taken leave of my senses, to go to Comic-Con as the myositis warrior. And you know what? I felt like I belonged there as much as Batman or Superman or any of those other superheroes, because myositis has taught me it takes a lot of strength. Well, Comic-Con only lasts a couple of days, so I felt emboldened by that. So when the TMA patient conference came around in 2019, I wore my cape to the TMA conference, and I met many fine people, and everybody liked my cape. And so I thought, okay, I can do this. This is good. Now, I have kind of embellished it a little bit. Now, this was a recently taken photograph, a day in the park, and I rock a walker like nobody else. I tell you what, if that's what I need to do, I'm going to own it. Then, many of you know, perhaps you don't, that I have been taking part in the arimoclomol clinical trial for IBM. The 6-minute walk test was taken a little over 2 weeks ago on my graduation day. From phase 2 to 3, the double-blind study is over. I am now on arimoclomol for real, and I will be followed for the next month. But as most IBM patients know, the 6-minute walk test, you got to chug down the hallway. And, so I had them take some pictures, and I told them I was going to wear my cape. Was that okay? Well, I think Dr. Mozafar kind of thought, oh gosh, okay, but I didn't care. I wanted to make a statement, and I wanted to let all of you know that you can be a warrior any time of day. And then, of course, I just added the sparkly shoes to the outfit because I like sparkly shoes. They make me feel better. They bring me a little joy. I may have myositis, but sparkly here. Sparkly shoes are fine. Jerry, next slide. So what do advocates do? Well, they join. They join Myositis Support and Understanding. Perhaps they join the Myositis Association. Webinars, local support groups, national support groups, and patient conferences. They help. They respond to questions on Facebook, in public and private forums. They help raise visibility by hosting, encouraging, and sharing their experiences and advice. They donate. Oh yes, they do donate. I didn't put that on here, but please keep that in mind. That is something that myositis does need. They do need your dollars. They visit. Did you know that you can call your congressman and your senator's office and ask to speak to them directly and arrange for an appointment? Pretty sure Zoom is allowed these days. Ask for continued rare disease funding. Ask for funding for myositis. There are training sessions you can attend to show you how to be a legislative advocate. You can even contact your mayor's office for a proclamation for myositis days. They attend webinars. Advocates try to get as much information as they can so they can speak knowledgeably. They go on walks, meetings, where two myositis warriors meet. It's a gathering of people who share your rare language. And advocates speak up. They share their stories with others. Truthfully, knowledgeably, friends, family, even your own physicians. Maybe the bravest of you will write newspaper articles or offer to be interviewed. Yes, even on TV. Perhaps be a guest on Holly's podcast. Hint, hint. So, but in addition to that, it's not ready for prime time yet. I am working on a Myositis Warrior blog, but I do already have a Myositis Warrior Facebook group for those of you that feel emboldened enough to actually try and do something. Which leads me to the next slide. What can you do? You're just one person. Well, start small. Tell a stranger about your rare disease. Try to keep it elevator pitch style. Typically, that means if you were going in an elevator from the first floor to the 10th floor and somebody looks at you and says, "And what's up with you?" or "What do you do?" Or if I'm wearing my costume, certainly they say, "What is that?" So you have 30 seconds to tell them about your rare disease. Maybe you can go on Facebook and like a post, comment, or post something yourself. Those are something many of you do all the time. Check out available resources to be informed. Myositis Support and Understanding on Facebook and the web. So many resources, so many. The Myositis Association website. Did you know about Myositis 101? Is available in both booklet and PDF, as is the Myositis Guide for Physicians. You could forward it in PDF to your doctor. You say they don't know about myositis. I have found that you can give them the booklet. That doesn't mean that they will read it. I personally have taken to bribing my physicians with a cookie, saying, "I will give you this booklet and I will give you this lovely cookie if you will read my booklet and learn more about my rare disease." If you are really activist-oriented and ready to take bolder steps, please join me at Myositis Warrior, my Facebook group. I'm ready to shake things up in the myositis community. As you can probably tell, I don't like to sit back and wait for other people to decide my future. And I'm just getting started, but I need help. I have IBM, and this is a very challenging disease, as you all know. You can contact me at myositiswarrior@gmail.com if you have a question or want to know more. And mostly, I would say to all of you, what can you do? You can be kind to one another. If you are a myositis patient, a family member, a care partner, a supportive friend, be kind to one another. We need all the positivity we can get. Find a little bit of joy in your life. I get down. I certainly do. I try music. I try a funny movie on TV. And yes, I pet my dog even when she's annoying. And sometimes my joy involves a glass of wine and a piece of chocolate. Now, I would like to remind everybody here, you're all superheroes, each and every one of you. You may not choose to wear a cape, but it takes the heart of a warrior to get through a life with myositis. So that's pretty much what I came here to talk to you about today. I can talk about IBM and my journey forever, but I know Holly has a great story as well. Hers is different from mine, as we all are. We each have a different journey, a different path. I have the luxury now of being retired, so I devote a lot of time to myositis. And I almost think of it as my job, but I know Holly has an entirely different story, so I'm going to turn this back over to Lynn.
Thank you, Rhonda. I would love to have some of that chocolate and wine just about now. Yes. Okay. You go get the chocolate and wine. We'll have a MSU martini talk coming up soon. I want to take just a couple of minutes, although it probably takes more than 2 minutes to talk about this wonderful woman. But I will give you a little bit of background on Holly, and then she'll fill you in when she tells you your story. Holly was diagnosed 16 years ago with polymyositis, and I'm sure she will tell you that it wasn't an easy journey. Probably started out with a lot of misdiagnosis and misunderstanding about what she was facing. But she hasn't let the disease define her. It spurred her on to do more to spread awareness of the disease, and also to make others aware of the impact of myositis on how she lives her life. And she does this in many, many ways. She's very creative, very innovative, but it goes all the way from her talk show called Crazy and Christian to her YouTube, which is called Myo Life, to her new Facebook page that she is very proud of and should be, where she talks about her story in color. And we'll have links to those given later, as we will for Rhonda. But Holly actually, like Rhonda, exemplifies our definition of an advocate who acts with power and purpose and passion. And with that, Holly, tell us about your journey.
But I don't even know if I can follow Miss Rhonda's. That was amazing. I'm so proud of your story. Oh my God, that was so good. So I just wanted to acknowledge that, and I want to thank Miss Lynn and Jerry for allowing me to use your platform to tell my story. As Ms. Lynn stated, 17 years, because I'm 36 now. So 17 years ago, I was diagnosed with polymyositis with ILD. That's why I'm currently on oxygen, as you guys can see. But to fast forward let's get to the advocacy part, right? So in 2012, I moved to Houston, Texas, and I didn't make any new friends because I was so consumed with my core family, my core friends back at home, that I was afraid to step out again and retell my story to new people, to let them know about this disease. And I just didn't want to start over again. So I say about maybe 5 years went by out here, and I started to become depressed again. And I remembered that feeling of depression from when I was 19 and started losing friends. You know, I graduated from high school. I spent 1 year in college and never went back. But my friends continued to live their life, which they should have. They were young and, you know, in college and things like that. But, you know, I was facing an illness that was unknown. So, like I was saying, 2017, my only two friends that I made out here outside of my church members was my phlebotomist, because she drew my blood every time I would go to the doctor, and my realtor, who helped me find my forever home. And those two ladies and my husband encouraged me to step out on faith and just say, hey, let everybody know about your disease. Just don't be silent anymore. Don't suffer anymore. Don't go through that depression anymore. You remember what that felt like. as a teenager, and you don't want to do that again in your adulthood. So I decided to step out on faith. I created my Facebook page, Polymyositis, Bringing Awareness. And it took off, and I was amazed because I think what it was is that a lot of people were young and diagnosed with polymyositis, and that there were women of color that had myositis, but they never spoke up and they never spoke out. And Polymyositis, Bringing Awareness, is pretty much a third-party site because I was starting out brand new. I didn't know how to really just advocate for this disease, right? So thanks to MSU and thanks to TMA, I used all their, out in Google, I used all their information and I just placed it on my page. And every time someone would reach out to me, I would reach right back out to them. I wasted no time. That's kind of my niche, my passion. I'm known for getting back to you within 24 hours. You know, it's just, I know what that's like to be waiting and not have any answers or anybody that can understand you. So when you finally do find someone, which that person may be me, I'm not going to make you sit there and wait or feel, you know, ashamed for reaching out and telling your story, taking a chance, and nobody gets back with you. So once I started that page and started to advocate, it gained a lot of attention, and it got me a radio interview in 2018. And so once I did the radio interview, they was like, oh my God, you're a natural. Have you ever thought about having your own show? And I go, well, no, I'm just good. I just, you know, I'm still wanted to still be just this stay-at-home mom, wife, and just run my little Facebook page. And they kept hounding me. And so I went ahead and came up with the name Crazy and Christian because I feel like that's what I am. Some days my life is crazy, but all days my life is Christian, right? So I started the talk show. We talk about everyday topics that range from politics to religion to relationships to community outreach, trending topics about celebrities. And then we also have testimonials because we want to hear people's stories of how they went through and how they get over. So once I started the radio show, I started doing videos of like behind the scenes, right? Like, hey, we're here. If you want to meet my guests, let me know, things like that. And it just came to me that maybe people want to know what it's like for me to be a young wife, young mother, you know, starting my own entrepreneurship, doing my own thing, and still having to be a patient, going back and forth to doctor visits and things like that. And so I was like, Myo life, perfect name for it. It's my life living with myositis, right? So I started that on YouTube. And I think for the beginning of Polymyositis Bringing Awareness and the Crazy and Christian, Myo life, I guess because it's so personal, that has been probably my greatest joy because I've been able to reach so many people through Myo life. And I've gotten so many comments, so many video recommendations. Women want to know about pregnancy. Women want to know about dating. Women, it's overwhelming, the comments that I get and the fear that these people have. And, you know, to advocate for something, to finally stand up and they go, I want to do it too. You know, I started out just saying, I just want to touch one life. And now I'm like, you know what? No, forget that. I want to touch every life. Whether you have myositis or not, I want you to go out and be the best you that you can be. And so the Myo Life, the radio show, and the Facebook page, that combination gave me the resume to allow me to be at the TMA conference last year, to be on the Women of Color panel, which changed my life. To see so many women of color so strong and carry their own weight and have their own journey, and to all come with the commonality of myositis, but we all came in such a different way, amazed me. And then what amazed me was things that they've experienced in their life outside of myositis. We laughed and talked about how, you know, myositis really for some of us, isn't the worst thing that we've gone through. And, you know, I would say myositis brought us together, but life experiences is what has bonded us forever. You know, some of you may know I lost my firstborn child. You know, I have, though, relationship with some women who might have miscarried or lost a child or, you know, gone through family loss. And so you talk about things that keep you bonded, because yes, myositis is something that we go through, but it's not what we carry on our forehead every day. Like, that's not the first thing that, you know, that we do. And then we don't look like what we go through as women of color. It's harder to diagnose us. You can't really necessarily see the disease. So I'm always telling people that, you know, I live with an invisible disease, and it's harder to even diagnose me versus my white counterparts, right? And so on that panel, we spoke about being diagnosed at an older age, where you lived your life and you were set up for retirement, and you thought that you was going to enjoy, you know, your grandchildren or different things in life, but now your life is flipped upside down. And then we talked about how, like with me, starting out with life, not knowing what my future was going to hold, getting told all of these grim, you know, outlooks and outviews of, I hope you make it to live to see the age of 35. So you have to imagine a 19-year-old child carrying basically a death sentence in the back of her brain, thinking, I'm not going to make it to 35. That's what my doctor told me, because next to, you know, in my community, next to God, your doctor knows everything. So if he says you don't have long with this disease, then you tend to panic. They tell you that you're going to have a lung transplant because you're going to be on oxygen. It's all these different things that would scare a young woman starting out with an illness. And so I wanted to bring that to the forefront on the panel, because I know I'm not the only one that was diagnosed at a young age. And it doesn't have to mean that I was, you know, 18, 19, 25, 30. Those are young ages. So, you know, for women to come to the panel and they can see someone that looks like them made my advocacy worthwhile, made me want to keep up the work. So that's what I did for the following year. And that's how we came back full circle 2020 now for the Women of Color panel. And it was virtual this year, which I thought was awesome. We were able to reach more people. I was able to host 2 separate chat rooms outside of the panel and speak with people. And that's when we kind of was brainstorming, and I birthed the 3 E's for the Women of Color panel. And I'm hoping that we stick with it, but it's to encourage, educate, and empower women. That's what we want to do, right? And so once we got done with that, and a lot of women started reaching out to me, I can't believe I'm not the only one. I can't believe that, you know, you're a woman of color. How do I do this? Do you have a group? I want to join, you know. And so I said, well, you know what? I think I can do that. I think I can work that out for you. And I got the brainstorming, and Her Story in Color, which is my newest project, my baby. I'm so proud of it. I do have a couple of friends and family members that are supporting me through Her Story in Color, and I'm so grateful to them. They stay up late, listen to my ideas, and listen to me run my mouth about it. But Her Story in Color is something I just want women to stop suffering in silence. Women, period. Not even just women of color. Women, period. We push our bodies so hard, so tough. We go every day. We're the last one to, you know, we're the last one to eat, the last one to get dressed to go. So we get everybody ready for us. Everybody, you know, gets sick, and we take the grunt of it. Then we end up, it's just a lot. But we, as women of color, I feel get overlooked. And I don't know what the reason is behind that, or we're not believable, because so many times I've been told I was too pretty to be sick. I was told I was too young to be sick. I was told it was all in my head. I was told I needed to changed my whole diet. And these things, when people tell you these negative things, it makes you not want to tell your story. It makes you not want to step up and advocate. So we end up dying because we don't go to the doctors, because all these people have said negative things to us. We end up dying because we want to feel quote unquote normal. We end up dying because since we want to feel normal, we want to shop and spend money on the things that are not important. Our health is what's important, not material things. But we fall by the wayside. And these things are not my opinion. These are stats. If you don't believe me, then go to the Heart Association and ask them who's the number one person that dies from heart disease. They're going to tell you African American women. These are just facts. So, I want my women to stand up, be proud, embrace the fact that you have this disease and that you can help someone, so you can save a life. This month is still September, but it's suicide awareness, right? So can you only imagine people who have taken their life because of an illness, because they were afraid to step out and stand up and say something and advocate for themselves. And I just want Her Story in Color to be that platform where these women can come, tell their story. Another woman will hear that story. Another woman will hear that story. And we can become the change. We can change these numbers. We can flip it and, be more successful, more engaged in our health, and not be the one that is the first to pass away, not be the one that gets overlooked for research. We should be there in the clinical trials too. So basically I get asked, what is my slogan? What is my for Her Story in Color? And I did a class and I came up with one from brainstorming, and it's going to be invisible disease made me visible to hope. And that's what I want. If these women can grab onto just one mustard seed of faith and hope, then their world is limitless. And that's what I want. I want them to know that your invisible disease has now made you visible to hope. And with that, my 3 I's, right? I, me, you, is going to be inspire, inform, and then ignite. Your ignition, that is your advocacy. That is your activism. You have every right to stand up and tell your story. And I say, find the one thing that you love, dive deep in it, and put your disease in it. Okay? You don't have to have millions of dollars. You don't have to have any of that. Find something that you love and advocate through that. I love to talk, as you can see. I don't mind being in front of the camera, as you can see. So social media, as a millennial, that was my first go-to thing. But if your thing is sewing or dancing or, whatever you love to do, then say, hey, y'all, come on. We're going to take this dance class, start fundraising. It's $5 to get in the class. Like Ms. Rhonda said, we need the money. We're going to get it any kind of way we can. So, and also my indirect way of advocacy. Those are my direct things. The Her Story, the pages on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. If you want an indirect way, I advertise on my kids. I get them t-shirts made. When I go pick them up from school, the teachers, they see my walker, they see my oxygen. It's word of mouth. You advocate through your family and friends. That's another way. If you don't feel comfortable stepping out, you tell one person, that one person tells another person. Get you a t-shirt made, get you a wristband made. You don't have to say anything, just let them read it. And that is how you can advocate. There's so many different ways that you can do it. So I guess I'm going to end it because I think we're on a time limit, you know what I'm saying? But my ending quote is a quote that I found on Pinterest. I know you girls love Pinterest. But it says, be the voice, not the echo. And I agree to a certain point. But when I look at that quote, I say, be the voice and the echo. Be the voice. But even if you're the first voice, second voice, third voice, 100th voice, be the voice and be the echo. And have other women come in and echo behind you. We're stronger together. That is what I have learned in this community. If you sit and you suffer in silence and you be alone and you don't want to tell anyone your story, we'll never get anywhere. And that's with any disease. And all it took was one person to step up and say something. Just one. And now we have a whole community of people, and we're finding better treatments, better care, better support. And at the end of the day, that's what advocacy is all about. So I hope you guys stick around. I was trying to make sure, I didn't want to take over the floor, because I can do it, Ms. Lee.
Okay. Amen.
I didn't have the slides like Miss Rhonda did.
Now, Jerry, you drew the short straw on this because you have to follow these ladies.
I have to follow these ladies?
Yes, you do.
Well, actually, their stories are very similar to my own. How MSU was started. So it's very inspired. It's actually inspired me again, all over again in a way, hearing the passion and kind of remembering when I was in my infancy of advocacy. When you have a passion for helping others, I think that's the first thing when you get into something like this is if you have that passion, you can do anything. You really can. I'm living proof of that.
So we do have some questions, and we've got some questions in the chat too.
Absolutely. Kanaya had asked a question about advocacy and one of the hardest experiences. I'm sorry. What was one of the hardest experiences about spreading awareness and advocating for myositis?
I think sometimes people don't want to hear about it. They don't want to hear about your troubles, your rare disease, something they don't understand. They can't pronounce it. It's too hard for them to grasp. You look fine, so people don't understand. I did cut some toxic people out of my life, and that was a hard moment for me. But and they were family members, and it was difficult, but you'll face challenges. You want people who want to go on the road with you. You don't need detractors.
Holly, do you have anything to add?
Well, one thing, the hardest thing has been for me is, I know a lot of people with myositis, in your brain, everything is perfect. You can do everything that you think about, dream about, want to do, right? And then your body go, hold on, I'm going to need you to rethink that. I'm going to need you to get somewhere and sit down, because we're not doing that today or tomorrow. And we'll think about it again next week. So, that's the hardest thing, is that your mind is still healthy and wants to do everything, but your body, your body just won't let you do it. And another thing that I found hard about advocacy is that I'm a people's person. And yes, I always want to advocate about myositis, but if I learn something about you and about you might have an invisible disease, and I encourage you to tell your story, and then you go, oh, well, no, they be all right. Or no, I want to, and it kind of makes me go, well, what if that one person didn't help you? Or what if that one person didn't stand up for this organization and get research and money funded? Then where would you be? So why wouldn't you want to advocate about your disease? So, that's the personal standpoint for me.
And, and I think my biggest struggle in advocacy, and I really still haven't sat down and shared my story on video like this, like you guys are doing. And I think that's my biggest fear. I hide behind, like Lynn said, you can't hide behind your camera, but I do a lot behind the scenes. I'm not good with putting my face out there on the camera. I've done news interviews and stuff like that, but that for me, that's the hardest part. So, I think for each of us, everybody's going to have a difficult adjustment to make, and especially comfort level when you start talking about these things. Elisa, when asking for continued funding, what else should we push for when talking with our legislators?
Maybe like a day, a myositis day in the community, some recognition. I don't know. Maybe we need a superhero day with Miss Rhonda. Bring
Well,
Comic-Con to. Can we do that? Can Comic-Con travel?
Comic-Con is actually all over the country in various forms. So if there are other people who want to appear as a myositis warrior whenever their Comic-Con comes to their neighborhood and they are available to, feel free. You can be that superhero too. And yes, everyone does have a different comfort level. I don't know why exactly I decided at the age of 66 I would put on a cape and go to Comic-Con for the first time ever as the myositis warrior. I don't really know why, but yet I was so far out of my comfort zone, I just embraced it and decided, okay, this is for me. So sometimes it takes making a step outside your comfort zone. I do think, rare disease legislative advocates, Lynn has been involved in that, and I know she received training on how to ask for money and funding from congressional people. I myself actually went to my congressman's office. He has a health aide. I spoke to the health aide, and the congressman actually happened to be in the office that day. I also saw, and this was a year ago, Senator Kamala Harris's Senate aide. And so I spoke with him about myositis and why it's a challenge and how having a rare disease, that no one has ever heard of or can pronounce, but we can do something. We can write them. You can send them emails. They will reply.
I would just say, to add on to what Rhonda said, when you're talking about how you can advocate for other than just funding, is probably one of the most powerful and inspiring conferences I went to was what's called the Rare Disease Legislative Week in Washington, D.C. And it's there that you meet, and I think this is real important, and I don't mean this in the bad way, but I think we see rare disease only from the perspective of myositis. And actually, myositis is one of the larger rare diseases. But there's 7,000 of them out there. There's 7,000 rare diseases. And when you expand your knowledge outside of the myositis bubble, what you get is an appreciation for the common issues that all rare diseases have in funding, in accelerating clinical trials, in looking at repurposing drugs, and looking at things like newborn screening to ensure that rare diseases that can be put to rest or attacked or driven back by research or treatment can actually be found the day that the baby is born. There's all sorts of things out there that can be done, but that kind of a kind of focus on the legislative aspect helps you get a bigger, broader perspective of what advocacy is really all about and what you can do in different ways, not only for myositis, but for rare disease as a broader issue. Because where we are trying, what we are trying to do within myositis is also what we're trying to do for rare disease across the nation, across the world, actually. But I think, if you can find some training from other groups about advocacy, you should take it. I did have a lady that I met in Philadelphia at a drug conference, And she said, because I'm shy too, I would not know how to go ask for money. And she said, when I first started out, and now she has a very large foundation. When she first started out, she couldn't conceive of the fact that she might be sitting across the table from somebody asking them for $1 million. And she says, and now it's a piece of cake. And what I think what fuels that is your passion and your desire to see something done now. And when you look at it from that perspective, I think you can do about anything. I hate to be on camera like this. You know, I'm not that kind of person, but I do it for Jerry, and I do it for the myositis community, and I do it for MSU. We did have one question, Jerry, before, if no one else has a comment. We had a question right at the start that I think we ought to be put on the spot, and that's Courtney asked about what is our 30-second elevator speech. And of course, I'm going to go first because I told her it would have to be a 100-story building if I was going to give a 30-second or more elevator speech, because it would take me that long. I do not do things in briefly. I'm going to go first, and I'm going to put myself out there.
And I'm going to copy down what you say so that I can just repeat it.
Because there was another comment too about how much do you disclose? You know, what do people really want to hear? Well, you have to read the situation. Obviously, I'm not going to blurt out that I have myositis in an elevator unless somebody mentions something. They see me with a rollator, or I've got a shirt on, or I have a mask on, something that indicates that I'm with an organization, or there's this strange myositis term. And I simply say that, yes, I have, in the context of what right now with COVID, I might kind of bring that into it, but usually it's just like, I have a uncurable autoimmune muscle disease. And it affects my muscles. My muscles, my body eats up my perfectly good muscles. And I let it go at that. And if they ask a little bit more, I'll say something like, well, it's like having your muscles turn to jelly. And usually that's about all I will say unless they want more information. I'm always tempted to say the one thing that I know comes up for us, which is that it's an invisible disease. And they don't know, they see, you know, we all have that, oh, well, you look so good when you're dying inside. But that's, you know, that's mine. It's very quick. In all of that, there was a 30-second elevator speech. You got to figure out what it was, though.
Right.
So what would you say, Jerry?
I do the same thing with you, but usually I get because I have a cane or a walking stick, or I'm in a wheelchair, and I'm young, you know, kind of in between Holly and Rhonda and Lynn somewhere in my early 40s. So I usually get, what did you do to yourself? You know, somebody thinking that I'm a perfectly healthy guy. Maybe I was out playing football because, you know, I'm old. And hurt myself, or, you know, something. So that's usually how my conversations start. It'll be usually an older gentleman. What did you do to yourself, son? And I'll just say, nothing. I have a rare autoimmune muscle disease that also affects my skin and other organs. And it's like, it's just exhausting. And, you know, I say it in a way to try to, I don't try to minimize it. I try to actually engage them to maybe either laugh a little bit to make them feel a little more comfortable and be a part of the conversation that we're having. Sometimes it works, and sometimes they just turn around and walk away, and I'm like, okay, thank you. So, you know, and then like Lynn, I go from there offering additional details. And, you know, sometimes it's just, they'll see the, you know, if you have the wristbands, like Lynn was talking about, the shirts and wristbands, that's why these kind of things are worth the money that you pay for them, which isn't much. We actually give them away right now. You can donate in for, if you want to donate to help cover shipping, you can, but you don't have to. But the wristbands, yeah, you can get them right on our website, understandingmyositis.org. That's one simple thing that everybody could do. Rhonda, what's your elevator speech?
Oh, well, I usually say something, gee, you look so young and beautiful. What's wrong with you? And I say, I have inclusion body myositis. It's a rare disease, and it's a muscle wasting disease that is affecting all of my major muscles. It is a life-changing disease. It's not a life-ending disease. And then, depending on how old the person is, I'll say, do you know who Peter Frampton is? I have the same disease Peter Frampton has. And yes, I do feel like he does, one of his most famous songs. So that's more or less along the lines of what I said.
Great. And for those that might be a little bit confused, there's different types of myositis, right? So Rhonda
Yes.
had IBM. So IBM and what the rest of us on the panel here right now, anyway, have are different. Dermatomyositis and polymyositis can both still be fatal diseases and are often, unfortunately, still, especially in women of color. So that's why, just to kind of put some context into what this advocacy is, why it's important. That's just one of the big reasons as to why it's important. People are still dying.
And if I can add one thing to that, it is why it's important for you to be educated about your disease, and I should realize that I do not speak for all myositis people.
I just like to clear up sometimes for some people that don't get it.
That's a very good point, Barry.
Thanks, Rhonda. Holly, what would your elevator speech be?
Well, when you have a face like this,
Right? Who needs words?
If I don't have my oxygen on, they don't speak. They just go, hey, but when I do have my oxygen on, they go, what's going on? They automatically assume that I have like COPD, that maybe I was like smoking in high school or something and just decided to destroy my own lungs. And that's not the case. So then that's when I kind of pretty much tell them that I have a rare disease that attacks my lungs as well as my muscles. And they go, oh, okay, and they're like, so I've gotten the comment, is it contagious? I've gotten that comment. And I was like, well, if it was contagious and I cough right now, would you be afraid? Or do you think you would be okay? And so, I kind of, like you said, I kind of make light of it. And I'm just like, no, it's not contagious, things like that. Sometimes, like I'll be outside and my husband always tells me to stop doing this, but I might not have my oxygen on my face. But if I see somebody smoking a cigarette, I'll hear them put it on and make sure I walk by them and be like, just got them good lungs that you are purposely destroying that I would enjoy to have and take care of, So I always try to find the humor in it because I do realize, like you said, for women of color with ILD and polymyositis, we die at a younger age. I realize that I'm on borrowed time. I mean, what the advocacy that I do today, the work that I put in today is going to help prolong the life of the woman that comes behind me. So I have to make sure that I'm constantly saying something, speaking up, letting people know what's going on with me, what's going on with my lungs, my body, everything. And some people don't want to put all of that out there. But if you don't, how are you going to help the person coming behind you? So, my elevator speech is funny, but very informative and maybe too much information.
You need 25 floors, not 10.
No, 125. 125.
It'll be worth it.
Again, I want to thank you both for not only your willingness to be here, but your excitement and enthusiasm to be here and to help others understand the kind of work that we do. We all have, like Rhonda said, she feels like it's her job, and that's exactly the same way I feel. I think Holly probably feels the same way, and I know Lynn feels the same way because we are working a lot of hours, and it's all worth it. Helping other people and knowing that you are making a difference in some way, and like we've talked about, there are so many small ways that you can just pick up your computer or your phone tonight, join a Facebook group. We've posted the Myositis Warriors group. We've posted Holly's Her Story in Color page. We'll share our Facebook support group, Myositis Support and Understanding, along with our website. If you're a patient, join. Caregivers, we have a group for you too. I'll post that link if you're a caregiver and you're looking for myositis caregiving support. We've got you there. Inclusion body myositis specific, for those of you that have inclusion body myositis, we have a Facebook group also just for you because the disease is so different and has a lot of different questions that usually comes up. And then we also have our Inspire community for everyone. So we'll get those links provided with the recorded version of this so that you have resources to everything here. And I want to thank everybody just for listening and being active and including questions. And that's all I have to say. Lynn?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that this is not the end of our Power of Advocacy series. We will be doing more of these. I'm not sure how many to the end of the year, but next year, because what we're trying to do is ratchet up the urgency of what we need to be doing. Instead of standing off stage, we need to be on stage right now. So that the message is the time is now. We got to hit it with everything we've got in every way we can to beat this disease down. And while we're trying to do that, we also have to remember that we have to live every day with myositis. So whatever we can do to make that journey better for everybody, that's what we're all about. And just look for more. And if you have some suggestions as to people that you think we should highlight on our series here of advocates, we'd be glad to talk with you. I love meeting more of the community, and we'll be back.
Holly, Rhonda, do you have any final words that you would like to close us out with?
Yeah, starting in October, I will be showcasing my first video of Her Story in Color, and I plan to do weekly content. So every week there will be a different woman telling her story in color.
I think that's so exciting. And I have to say, I so appreciate sharing this stage with Holly. She gives me such a different perspective on life, myositis, and being a person of color.
One big thing of my advocacy too, I love trying to support and encourage young women newly diagnosed that are not moms yet and want to become moms. They don't think that it's possible. I've had 3 children. It's possible. You just have to find the right doctor, right treatment plan. A lot of women feel like they won't find love. My husband married me in my illness. I always tell that story. He didn't know me healthy. Illness is all that he knows. So he's been a caretaker for 15 years. My children, illness is all they know. Trust me, you will find ways to be a great parent with your kids. Don't feel like you're robbing them of your childhood or that you can't be a good mother to them, because you can be. You just have to find your own niche with your kids. Stay in your lane with your kids, because the healthiest mom is not always the best mom. Okay? So, but
well,
I love
be sure to have you guys back.
Yeah.
Well, we'll have you back. I'm sure there'll be other creative ways that we can all get together on here and produce something informative, fun, and educational for the audience, right? Thank you all so very much for joining us. Thank you, Holly. Thank you, Rhonda. And as always, thanks to our beautiful Lynn for all that she does. Everyone have a wonderful night. If you have questions, please email us. Thank you. Good night.
Good night.